hi everyone, hopefully you can hear me, and thanks everyone for coming. My name's Danielle Dwyer and I'm an occupational therapist in SWH Healthcare School Readiness Team, and we're really excited to present to you tonight our Step Up to Kinder Forum. I'll go through a little bit of housekeeping to start off with. So it's preferred that participants can remain muted with their cameras switched off for the forum, just as it's being recorded. It helps with the sound quality. And please utilise the chat function if you have any questions. The School Readiness Team and the Department of Education staff will aim to answer them during the conclusion.
With an acknowledgement of country, we'd like to acknowledge and pay our respects to the traditional owners of the lands in which we meet today. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and to any Indigenous people here today. We acknowledge their continuing connection to the land and culture. So the contents for today's forum, firstly I'll go through some introductions to the early childhood experts, and then we'll have a message from a kinder teacher. We'll go through some transition tips and some general milestones from our allied health team. We'll also hear from the maternal child health nurse, our preschool field officer, and then we'll go through a conclusion and answer any questions you might have. So our allied health team, the people you'll be hearing from today are Marley Colkin-Gray, our speech pathologist, Jessica McCarthy, our social worker, and myself, Natalie Taylor, an occupational therapist. And our guest speakers today are Teresa Frost, our kindergarten teacher, Leanne McDowell, our preschool field officer, and Sarah Benfell, our maternal child health nurse. And Donna Lum will be speaking in the 7 o'clock session this evening. I'll hand it over to you, Teresa.
Hi everyone, Natanwa. 2020 has certainly been a very different year, and a very different year for orientations taking place. I can tell you that as a kindergarten teacher, every time I read the list of 2021 children's names, I'm very excited. Some of them we already know because the children have had older brothers and sisters at the kindergarten. Some we have had at the centre as 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds this year, and some are names on a list and we can't wait to meet you. Wherever you live, we're certainly looking forward to meeting you and your child and to being their teachers and their educators next year. And parents might feel a little anxious about starting kindergarten as they've not had the chance to come and visit our centres this year as we would normally do. But one thing that 2020 has taught us is that children are resilient, just like we are, as long as we keep them in the loop of what's happening. Your centre will contact you if things happen to change over the coming weeks and orientations are allowed. But in the meantime, if you make sure you check out your centre's virtual tour, it gives you an idea of what the kindergarten looks like, who the teachers are, what the foyer, the playroom, the outdoor area, etc. look like. So it starts to build up a picture of what kinder is going to be like for your child. Take the time to read through the kinder's information booklet so that you're familiar with the educator names and what you might need to bring to kinder. And make sure that you fill out any information sheets about your child and your family life, because that's a really great starting point for us to get to know your child in those first few precious days of kindergarten. If your child is anxious or has separation anxiety, please be reassured that we have many ways to help them settle in those first days. Be patient and give your child reassurance. We understand that it can be heartbreaking to say goodbye to a teary child, but we have lots of strategies to help them settle in so that they're not upset for the day. When you're ready, you can say goodbye to your child before you leave and then leave promptly. Let them know that they're going to be okay and that they'll enjoy their day. Educators will support your child in saying goodbye and settling in. Each family situation is a little different, and we will work closely with you to develop what works best for you and your child. This could be developing a positive routine for saying goodbye, finding a favourite activity, bringing along a special toy, or working out a revised orientation process. Please give us a call if you're worried about your child, because we're all here to help you. Many centres also use online platforms like Kinderloop or Story Park, so we can send photos to reassure you that your child is having a good time. And certainly in 2020, having online platforms to send photos and messages to parents has been, I guess, a saviour. It's been the best thing about relationships this year. We can only say hello briefly at the gate, but we can make phone calls and we can post photos and what's been happening at Kinder online. Be reassured that most children do settle in quickly and have a happy session. The kindergarten will take into account that children have not visited before. We set up inviting play spaces that cater for a variety of interests and braveness levels. Some of these will be near the door or the gate, where children who are a little timid can sit and watch others as they begin to make friends and develop a sense of belonging at the kindergarten. When play spaces are open-ended, it gives us more time as educators to spend with anyone who's feeling a little bit hesitant. During the first weeks, we played fun songs and games that help children get to know each other and the kinder routines and help them to feel comfortable within their new learning environment. Meal times are deliberately relaxed so that conversations can flow. And all of our educators are trained and experienced to best support your child to develop friendships, to build on their social confidence and their independence. Centres will have a group time where children can regroup and come together at different parts of the day. We do a lot of small group times in our kindergarten, and we find that's really nice for the children. That's sort of our quiet time. While we might not have a sleep time, it's a rest. Some centres do yoga or mindfulness times just to give children a little bit of balance throughout the day. Some of the things that you can do at home between now and February to help your child feel positive about starting kinder are spending time with your child. Talk with them often throughout the day. This will build their language skills and help them to have conversations with others. Read them stories every day so that they enjoy listening to stories and develop a love of books. Play games indoors and outdoors so that they get used to taking turns and build up some concepts and skills. Practice good manners with them and use them yourself. Involve children in activities like cooking and gardening. They love helping out wherever they can. Practice flushing toilets and washing hands. That's something we've become very good at this year. Encourage them to ask you for help when needed, rather than just anticipating their needs. And that way, if they need us to help them at kinder, they'll be practiced at coming and asking us for that. Let them do things for themselves when they can too. Put on their socks, carry their bags, help set the table, just so that they feel like they are competent, and when they come along that they'll be able to be part of what we do at kinder. Have pencils and textures and crayons and scissors and paste, all those sorts of things, construction sets available for the children at home, just so that they're building up some fine motor skills and enjoying play. A lot of what we do at kindergarten is based on play, and hopefully when your child comes in, there's a lot of different play spaces indoors and out where they can find something that really suits them. Also, if you're worried about toileting, speak to their kindergarten teacher. Children can come to kindergarten if they're not toilet trained. We'll work with you where your child is at, and we'll show them where the toilets are. We'll help them out as needed. One of the most important things is just to keep open lines of communication between yourself and the kindergarten. So if you're not sure about something, someone will be able to help you. If there are little queries, we can help you every morning or at the end of the session to let you know how they've been going. If you've got any concerns, it's probably a good idea to ring the kindergarten, speak to the teacher at the end of the day, and that way we can make sure that any concerns you might have don't become something that is bothering you or your child. There's so much that we could tell you. I suppose also practice with lunch boxes and that. Have a think about what you're going to buy for Christmas, or go shopping together to get lunch boxes and drink bottles, backpacks that are big enough to pack lots of things in, hats, coats, spare clothes, artwork. expectations. And then you'll know, what shoes at our centre we have enclosed shoes. So what sorts of expectations do the kinder have? But most of all, talk about it as fun. We know your child's going to have a lovely time when they come along to kindergarten with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Some wonderful tips there. So now we'll hear from our school readiness team, and we'll run through a few tips for transitioning to kinder, a few of the milestones that you can expect to see in your children, and also where you can access support if you have any concerns at all. I will hand you over to Marley.
Hi everyone, I'm Marley. I'm optimistic that you can all see and hear me. Let me know if you can't, because I do have alternate modes of media here to support me in the event that it fails. So some of the things that I'll be touching on are similar to those that you've just heard, but I guess I'll be talking about them through a speech pathology lens. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is a strategy called recasting. So recasting is a speech and language strategy that we use where we repeat what a child says, but with more detail and in a more accurate way. So this helps to develop their language. So for example, young children might say, "Look, the doggy ran away." And to recast this sentence, we would just repeat it with more information and more advanced words. So we could say, "Yeah, that big dog ran away," with a little bit of emphasis as well. So children explore language through hearing it and then trying it out themselves. So by us recasting their language, we're not kind of asking them to repeat it and putting that pressure on them. It's just giving them a nice example of how language works with a detailed and grammatically correct sentence. This allows us to teach language in a really positive way. It also helps conversations to continue without the interruption of a correction. So you're not stopping their thoughts or where the conversation was going to go by being like, "Oh, could you say that again, but in this way?" Just model it correctly yourself and move along. And by doing this and echoing what you've just heard them say, it also shows your child that you're really listening and focusing on what they're saying. The next thing I'm going to touch on is reading books, which we've just heard about. But books are so great for language development, in addition to, helping with those pre-literacy skills about learning how books work and how words work. We're also exploring ideas, places and language that we might not actually get to use or see that often in everyday life. So, books allow us to talk about giraffes in the wild. When you're reading books, follow your child's lead by talking about what they're looking at or pointing at. So make reading the books a conversation more. You don't need to feel confined to just the words on the page. You can make comments about the things that you're seeing and following their lead with what they're most interested in on the page, I suppose. So you can relate the book to your child's own experience. So you might say, "Oh, remember that time we saw the giraffe with the really long neck at the zoo? Yeah, it was making us laugh." And by relating it to their previous experiences, it helps to solidify that knowledge and experience for them. The last thing I'll touch on is play, which I'm sure you're going to hear about a lot this evening, but it is just so great for language and all sorts of aspects of kids' development. So pretend play in particular, there's lots of different types of play, but pretend play is where we're pretending to be something. And this is another way for children to practice their thinking, interacting and storytelling skills. This is obviously as well what they'll be practicing at kinder. So when you're pretending with your child, you help them to learn how to play with others, including important skills like turn taking and collaborating. Much like books, pretend play is excellent to learn new vocabulary that they may not hear all the time. So treasure, fairy, castle, superhero. And when children take on a pretend role, they imagine what it's like to be another person. So this develops their ability to take other people's perspectives into account and also develops their empathy, which, helps as they develop friendships through kinder and then into prep. So just, I suppose, a key tip for play is just keep it really fun and follow your child's lead. Thanks very much, and I'll pass it on to the next speaker.
Thank you, Marley. Next we've got some occupational therapy tips. And And I guess the main thing for occupational therapy is around encouraging independence, and particularly for starting kinder around the morning routine and gathering their personal items. So as I'm sure you all know, it can be a rush sometimes to get everyone ready and out the door, which can often cause stress for you and your child. And we would just suggest that over the summer holiday period, you have a few practice runs of the morning routine and go through all the tasks that you'll be expecting your children to do once kinder starts. So do as much preparation with them the night before. So set out all the clothes or shoes, bags, and then in the mornings encourage independence with these tasks as much as you can. So getting dressed, packing their bag, cleaning their teeth, just be there, but encourage independence as much as you can. And offer help if required, but encourage them to do as many steps of the tasks as you can. And that will ensure mornings run a bit smoother, hopefully. And once kinder starts, hopefully that level of stress in getting everyone out the door quickly will improve. And another thing to remember when you're packing children's lunch, just make sure, have a little practice run with their containers and their lunch boxes before they go, just to make sure that they can easily open them. It just helps, and it's already been touched on, but just helps with their confidence and their ability to do things on their own. Also, we'd like to encourage activities that involve core strength and endurance. So once your child begins kinder, they'll be expected to do a lot of sitting on the floor or the mat, sometimes for lengthy periods. So it will really help your child to sustain this posture and to remain focused on what is actually being taught if they have a good core strength. So over the holidays, we'd suggest doing as much outdoor playing as you can. So moving, climbing, climb trees, play on playground equipment, particularly climbing frames. And just getting outdoors as much as you can, even obstacle courses out in the backyard, somersaults, jumping on the trampoline, rolling down hills. It's all great for their core strength. And also a good one is also having lots of picnics over the summer months. So that helps to practice that sitting position with their legs crossed and for long periods. And another great thing for them that will prepare them for kinder is to create opportunities for practicing forming letters and shapes. So the very best way for children to learn how to write is to provide them with as many opportunities as you can, just holding a writing object in their hands. So just it could be anything, be it a fat paintbrush or a bucket of water to paint the back fence or the footpath or driveway. In the warmer weather, you might be able to get the paints out. They can paint outside in the backyard. You could draw a picture of the family or get them to copy their name with a stick in the sand at the beach. Just try and make it as fun as possible. Also, cutting with scissors is a great skill to have for kinder. So introducing the children to scissors and practicing cutting as much as possible. Colour paper or newspapers, magazines. It's a great skill for them to have in kinder. And I will hand you over to Jess.
Thanks, Nat. I'm here to cover some of the social work transition tips. And the first one I've noted really is over the summer break, talking about kinder positively. We often feel like we do this, but when you listen to people, particularly parents often talk about, oh, I'm going to cry, I'm going to be so sad, my baby's off to kinder. that kind of stuff. And I'd just be really wary of that kind of talk in front of children, and just really trying to keep highlighting that you're really happy and excited for them going. And that sort of talk can happen in an adults only environment about being sad to send your baby off, because that can certainly be the way that you feel. But just really making sure that in front of the child you're talking about how happy and excited you are for them. Now, obviously there's a chance that you may not get to go to the kinder with your children before next year. So do your best to try to familiarise them with the new surroundings. Driving past, pointing it out, parking and having a look through the fence, looking at the yard. Oh, that looks fun over there. There's the sandpit, pointing things out and trying to make it as familiar as possible. Lots of the kinders have an oval or a playground next door, so you could spend some time there if that helps. And I've just also noted here a lovely book called The Invisible String that's really, it talks about still being connected with the people that we love even when we're apart, and if children are going to have issues separating. And particularly this year, that may be an issue for children who might have spent more time at home with their parents than usual. And that can be a really lovely book to read and give you some language to discuss with the children about the fact that you remain connected even when you're not physically together. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. So we'll just run through a few milestones, and we just like to emphasise that these milestones are just a guide. Children can reach milestones at all different rates, and kindergarten provides an environment where children are supported to reach their developmental milestones. So just feel comfortable that these milestones will be encouraged at kinder, and they'll be in the right environment to reach these milestones. So with fine motor skills, we'd like to see children able to copy a square and a triangle. So this is for 4 to 5 year olds, able to tie a single simple knot, able to use tongs to transfer objects, things like putting paper clips on paper. We'd like to see them attempting to write their own name, so it doesn't matter if it's not legible, as long as they're having a go. We'd like to see a pencil grasp emerging, so again, it doesn't matter if this isn't perfect, but we'd like to see a mature grasp starting, and there'll no doubt be a bit of inconsistency, but just so that they're starting to get the hang of that. Attempting to colour within the lines, can copy simple shapes and beginning to copy letters. Starting to use scissors and to cut simple shapes, able to build towers or bridges with blocks, can move a small object from palm to fingers in one hand, so moving it from their palm into their fingers within that one hand, and using two hands together, so stabilizing the paper or object with one hand and then using the other to manipulate it. In terms of gross motor, we'd like to see children starting to balance on one foot, just briefly, but standing start jumps forward, throwing the ball over their heads, catching a bounce ball, jumping, climbing, running, beginning to skip and hop. They might have a go at riding a tricycle. They can jump backwards, able to jump down from a high step. They can throw a ball and climb on playground equipment. So these are general milestones for 4 to 5 years. So again, if your children aren't meeting these at the moment, that's completely fine. And also around independence, we'd like to see children using a fork, going to the toilet independently, wiping after bowel movement, washing their face and hands. We'd like to see them brushing their teeth by themselves, doing up buttons, spreading with a knife, we'd like to see them trying to dress themselves, maybe not every day and not perfectly by any means, but having a go, and also washing themselves independently. And back to Marley.
Alrighty, so by around the age of 5, we do expect that we should be able to understand about 95 to 100% of what a child is saying. So this is usually most impacted by the speech sounds that kids are able to make, and that's using their mouth, their tongue, and it impacts how well we can be understood by others. Sounds also develop at a whole range of different rates, and the later ones to develop around the ages of 4 and 5 are s, z, f, v, sh, k, g, ch, j, and ul. So you might have noticed some of those in your children's speech already, or they might develop over your child's kinder year. We did just want to highlight though that for rabbit and for thing are the latest developing sounds. So it's very normal for kinder kids to be saying wing when they mean ring, or thing when they mean thing, and not a cause for alarm at all. So some of those sounds don't even come in till around the age of 6 or 7. So definitely don't worry if your children aren't showing those signs yet. Kinder kids should, however, be using the correct number of syllables in words and not leaving off sounds at the end or in the middle. So this is usually one of the most causes for having trouble understanding your kids' messages, and I'd consider a referral to a speech pathologist if you or other people are reporting that it's hard to understand what your child's trying to say. If we move on to language, so children will be able to understand more complex and longer language sentences. So long, like 2-part instructions, so put down the doll and give me the book, or simple 3-part instructions like pick up your shoes, your book, and your lunchbox. They'll begin to understand prepositions, so position words like behind, in front of, around. They might be able to understand some shapes and count up to 10, or at least understand that numbers go to 10. They might only be able to count to 5, and that's totally okay. And they might start to show an awareness around literacy that some words start and finish with the same sounds. We do also notice that children around 4 to 5 are starting to use longer and more complex sentences. So their sentences are sounding more like an adult's. They might contain 4 to 6 words, and the grammar's becoming more correct, I'd say, yeah. So we might see that some past tense is still wrong, incorrect. So like I said, within the example, run before instead of ran. So that's in irregular past tense, and yeah, a bit trickier to navigate, but they do start to come along around this age. And they'll start to use longer, more complicated sentences using joining words. So your and, because, but, and then also describing recent events. So their memory starts to improve, and they can maybe recall what they did at kinder that morning, or what needs to happen before they get ready to go to kinder in the morning. And that's it from me.
Thanks, Marley. I just wanted to touch on separation anxiety again, and really just highlight that it is a normal developmental stage. It starts when children are about 8 months old, and for most, it'll be gone by the time that they're about 3. And being anxious of separation was an essential skill. It's made us survive throughout the ages, and being anxious when our parent popped us down is what saved us from getting eaten by lions years ago. So it's normal, and some children will hold on to that a bit longer than others, particularly if they're nervous and apprehensive about starting something new. So your child may not be anxious separating at the moment, but they might be at the start of kinder. We'd expect that, and they probably just won't cry or cling for extended periods. Teresa had some really good tips around that, around not sneaking off on children, and letting them know that you're trying to settle them as best you can, and then letting them know that you're going. Some other developing skills I'd expect to see would be an ability to regulate emotions. This is a developing skill. Children aren't born with this. children will learn how to regulate their emotions through the experience of having an adult help them regulate their emotions, labeling their feelings and validating their feelings. They're the building blocks to regulating emotions, and along with modelling. The one thing I'd say is, remember that we want to limit behaviour in children, not emotions. So we're not wanting to say you're not allowed to feel angry. We're wanting to say you feel angry, and I can see why you feel angry about that, but this is how we show anger. So we're trying to limit the behaviour and not the emotion as such. Making friends and joining in play will also be developing emotions, and you'll probably notice when you go to the playground and that sort of stuff, your child might take up with a little group and start playing a little game together, and they're certainly the developing skills that I'd expect to see at this age. Thank you.
So where to access support if you have concerns about your child? Speak to your kindergarten teacher about your concerns first and foremost. Ensure your child has completed their 3.5-year-old maternal and child health nurse check. We'll probably hear a bit more about that in a minute. Contact your local community health provider and ask about their paediatric services. Talk to your GP about your concerns. They might also suggest a referral to a paediatrician. And also contact La Trobe Community Health Services. If there are multiple concerns, your child may be eligible for an early intervention plan. So we'll just go to, through to Sarah.
Thanks. When you filled out, or when you will fill out in the future, your kinder enrolment form, it'll ask you if your child has had their 3.5-year-old check with maternal and child health nurse. So today I'm just going to briefly tell you what you can expect to happen in that appointment. This visit really gives you an opportunity to discuss any concerns you might have for your child and to talk about your parenting experiences. The visit focuses on two main aspects. So the first being the physical health and well-being of your child. So we'll weigh and measure them and then plot their growth on the percentile charts for you and show you how they're tracking. We talk through their nutrition with you and any eating concerns or issues you may be having, and we can refer you on to a dietitian if needs be. We also perform an eye test. We ask your child to match letters from a distance with an eye covered, and this is just a screening test, it's not diagnostic. If needs be, we would then refer you on to an optometrist. We also assess their gait, so their way of walking, to make sure it's symmetrical, nice and even. And we also assess their oral health with you, so that's the health of their gums and their tongue and their teeth. And we talk through your child's immunisation status with you and discuss additional vaccinations that are available that aren't on the schedule. And we also talk through common causes of injury at this age and some general safety tips. And then the second aspect of the visit focuses on your child's development and learning. So we use a questionnaire that you'll be familiar with if you've visited maternal and child health during your child's first 2 years of life. And it's called PEDS. It stands for Parents' Evaluation of Development Status. And this is an evidence-based screening tool that draws out your concerns and addresses your concerns about your child's development. So there are 10 questions and they take you through every area of your child's development. So their expressive language, how they're talking, their receptive language, how they're understanding, their fine and gross motor skills, that's how they're using their small and large muscles in their body, their behaviour, their social development, their emotional development, how they're learning to regulate their emotions, and also their self-care, so their feeding, dressing and their toileting independence. And this screening tool has very clear pathways for us to follow with you. So if you did happen to have concerns in certain areas of your child's development, we'd then refer you on to the appropriate professional. And that generally, well, it's often one of the allied health teams, so a speech pathologist or occupational therapist or physio or a GP. And the areas of concern that you may have that don't require further professional help, we would then give you research-based information and strategies to help. So that's like information and strategies that have been shown to be effective in helping, like for example, in the areas of behaviour or sleeping or toileting and eating issues. We may also do a developmental screening test called a Brigance screen, which gets your child to do short little tasks that further screen their development. This screen can help provide more information if a referral is needed. And lastly, we also talk through kinder enrolment information, and we point you in the right direction if we can't answer your questions. So that's the content of it in a nutshell. And Warrnambool, this is a 45-minute appointment, and it would be fairly standard across the regions, I think. And there's no cost involved to you, like any maternal child health visit. And if you haven't visited a maternal child health nurse before, or you've dropped off with your visits, we encourage you not to feel any awkwardness in attending this appointment, because we'd really love to see you and your child, especially as they're moving on to this next exciting phase of their learning and development. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I'll hand you over to Leanne.
Hi, a lot of you probably haven't heard of a preschool field officer before. A preschool field officer is a kindergarten teacher trained, and they have experience in planning and carrying out programs that include children with additional needs. The preschool field officer can come into the kindergarten to support the kindergarten teacher and other staff. And if the kindergarten teacher wants to refer a child to the preschool field officer, they would talk to the parent first, complete a referral form and send that in. Reasons for referral might include delays in fine motor skills, delays in language development, problem solving skills. Children having difficulties with social emotional difficulties, trouble concentrating, children who just can't sit still for very long at all to stay and finish a task. The preschool field officer will support the teacher to plan for the child, and how this is done will vary depending on the circumstances. The preschool field officer can come in and carry out observations or simple assessments, spend time talking and playing with the child, getting to know them so that we get a better understanding of them, model ways of working with the child. Sometimes we get the advantage of going around to a lot of places and seeing a lot of different ways of doing things, and we can model how to do that, and staff can then continue on with that. We then work with the teacher to plan and implement strategies to meet the needs of the child. We often will have contact with the parents as well, and ideally we meet with the parents and the teachers just to discuss plans as part of open communication. But this year things have been done a little bit differently due to COVID. There's been less meetings with the three people all together. We've had some phone ones and found creative ways to do things. Hopefully next year that's a little bit easier. Once we meet and discuss things, we might identify need for further referrals to specialised services, which might be to an occupational therapist, a speech pathologist, psychologist, or to go to a GP to get a referral to a paediatrician for further investigation. If that's suggested, it's not a reason to panic. It's just people like those who have been talking today. They've got great ideas and they can go a little bit further in depth. We can give general ideas on how to do things, but for those children who need that little bit more, we can suggest that a referral to those people is made. So we're really part of a wider team that is there available to support staff, to support your children, and hope that they have a really great year. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Leanne. That concludes our forum today, but please, if anyone has any questions, please pop them in the chat and we will do our best to answer them.
Someone's just asked about a recording of this presentation. Nat, are you able to give any info about where the recording of this will be distributed?
We are recording it. I'm not sure how we will get it out to people, but we will if you we'll send it to the kinders, but if Danielle's there, she might be able to answer that better than me.
Yeah, so we will upload the recording to our YouTube channel and share the link with the kindergartens, so they will be able to share that with the incoming families for 2021. We also might look at sharing it on the Southwest Healthcare Facebook page if we're allowed to, so I'll check on that. And we will also include a list of the milestones just for the person that asked that question as well. We'll put a list together and distribute that with the YouTube link.
So that sounds like it's it for questions. Thank you all very much for coming along today, and all the best for next year.